Hello, people who watch this channel. My name is Melissa, and I know that there are some people who probably watch me, so you know what? I'm just gonna, say hello to the, one to two people who probably watch this channel. And today, we're gonna be talking about diversity and inclusion, and how I believe that that is actually taking over the words art and creativity away from how, movies and TV shows and things are being created. And that is one of the main reasons why I'm kind of not for the SAG-AFTRA slash... Well, you know what? I'm not even going to say it. I'm not really, for this whole writer's strike thing. And the reason why I'm not for the writer's strike, and, why I do not think that, they fully deserve, the funds that they're receiving. I'm not saying that it's not a terrible thing, that so many people in that area are not making enough money to survive off of. But you know what? I'm also saying that I kind of understand why, that they are having this strike. And I kind of get why, we are not coming to they're not coming to a common ground on much of anything. You know what? It's getting to the point where I believe that we are valuing diversity and inclusion over creativity and originality in art. Isn't that a part of what makes, so many things interesting? It's like if I told you, what the thing about diversity is that, we've gotten to the point where we don't believe that if a character looks exactly like you, that you cannot relate to that character. And that is such a joke. It is incredibly stupid to believe that you should create a character that looks exactly like you in order to be able to relate to that character. And I'm going to give you guys an example of one thing that's been near and dear to my heart, and why I believe that Disney is going to be failing from now on if they continue down the path that they're going to, because of what we've been including in with this inclusion and diversity. And this is what, as a white woman, I believe is happening with those words, and why I believe that it's incredibly stupid to continue saying. Because, diversity to me means having a range of diverse and different characters with different cultures and backgrounds that, successfully describe what it's like to be that person. And whereas I do believe that skin color is a very big deal whenever it comes to a specific character, I also believe that you gotta bring in that culture and that representation to, back that up. And what I've noticed from most people, and an example of that to me is the Little Mermaid movie. Okay, so we take the Little Mermaid movie, and what irks me about that movie is not necessarily the fact that Halle Bailey's performance was great, because in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, you guys can believe whatever it is that you want to about anything that has to do with it, Halle Bailey's character, or, Ariel, she wasn't playing Ariel to me. And here's why. Ariel is such a beautiful character. She has so much, so much to give. And yes, she is a white, redheaded princess that I believe so many girls related to as a kid. For Ariel, for me, I love mermaids. So, I love mermaids regardless of what they, what skin color that they apply to or anything along those lines. I just really like mermaids. And to see Halle Bailey try to portray Ariel the way that she did, it just didn't make any sense why we would want to change a beloved character like Ariel to fit somebody else. Because whenever, you see this new diversity and inclusion, crap being infested into, if it doesn't look like you, all of a sudden you're racist for not, for not agreeing with the fact that Halle Bailey just didn't do well as Ariel. I mean, I've had multiple people tell me, and this is just on Facebook, multiple people have said that Halle Bailey's performance is the greatest thing since sliced butter. But I disagree. And the reason why I disagree with that is because I feel like Halle Bailey just did not understand how the character was created. Or made. Halle Bailey played a feminist Ariel. The New Age, you know, like, one where they believe that the girl can do it all and the boy is just there, or the man is just there, and we're supposed to accept that as the answer on everything. You know, like, if we question it, it's just not supposed to happen. You know, like, if we question the idea that Ariel, you know, can't do everything by herself, you know, she needs somebody to be there to help her out in whatever kind of situation that she's in, because, you know what, it's wrong to believe that a girl can't do everything by herself. And to me, what that says about little girls is so messed up, because I believe that everybody needs help sometimes. And I feel like the message with Ariel and the Little Mermaid was that, you know, in the original, you know, centerpiece, was that Ariel, you know, sometimes needed help, and, you know, needed that help even whenever she wasn't able to ask for it by Eric, you know, and be saved by Eric by getting that ship impaled straight into Ursula. And that showed, you know, just how much Eric loved Ariel, and also showed her dad the, you know, like, the reason why we should keep humans around, and why there are some humans who are good and some humans who are bad. And whenever they took that out of the film, that was by far the stupidest decision that they could have possibly ever made for this movie. It just is. It's not awesome to do that. And it's also not awesome to race swap characters like the Little Mermaid out of the picture. And you're gonna say, oh, but Mel or MJ, what about, you know, like, Beauty and the Beast, or what about other characters that were race swapped for others? And let me tell you why I believe that, you know, those changes are fine, but this one is not. It's because whenever you think of the character Ariel, you think of the red-haired, you know, the white red-haired mermaid princess. You think of her. You do not think of a black-haired girl with, I want to say this nicely, red dreadlocks playing this character, or orange. I think it was mostly orange in my opinion. Orange dreadlocks playing this character. You think of the red-haired, white, you know, character Ariel. And that is what you wanted to see whenever Disney did the live-action remake of the film. You wanted to see that same exact character, because it results in the familiarity. There we go. I cannot say words. Familiarity, and it results in that, and therefore that makes you happy to see it, because that's the character that you relate with. Characters like Belle and Jasmine and even Cinderella, they all kept the same looks like their counterparts did in the original films. That is why your brain associates Ariel with how she looked in the original film, not with Halle Bailey. And again, I have no disrespect for Halle Bailey's performance, except for the fact that I think that she just did not do well in this movie, and I do not believe that she should have allowed the directors to keep in the thought process of, you know, steering the ship whenever this character had no idea even what a ship was until Eric came into the picture. And there was no proof that Ariel would have even known how to steer that ship, which was another stupid thing. But I don't want to sit here talking about that. You know, like, I believe, and you know, like that is what you get whenever you do a live-action remake, or a remake of something. You are basically putting those elements from the animated film and bringing that to life. You're not taking it off of a, you know, like, original idea, or the Grimm fairy tale of the Little Mermaid, or anything along those lines. You are taking Disney's The Little Mermaid and putting it into live action film, and that is not supposed to be done. You know, that movie should not have even been thought of, or, you know, come into existence in the first place. But sadly it is. And that is how I feel whenever we talk about Rachel Zegler too. I mean, this is all just a gigantic joke. This is what you get whenever you, like, bring in the idea of forced inclusion and diversity into the same mix. Because now that we've had this idea, we have to fill a quota about forced diversity and inclusion. Now it's like, well, okay, you know, like, not everybody can have their cultures added into the mix. You know, like, Snow White is a great example of this. Snow White is a character that everybody loves, and she looks this way. Disney's Snow White looks this way. Black hair as black as ebony, white as skin as snow. And when you take the idea and you give it to somebody else, and you take Snow White, which was originally based in Germany, and you guys cannot, say no on that, because that's where Snow White was actually based on, and where, Walt Disney said that the film was actually done, or, the film took place was, back in that olden time frame of Germany. You cannot have a Latino or a Latina as that character, or whatever race that Rachel Zegler is. That is so much cultural appropriation, it's not even funny. But the thing is that we are allowing it to happen. Or, Disney is allowing this movie to be made in the first place, without any thought or regard toward how it makes other people feel. First we had Ariel taken away and replaced with Halle Bailey, and everybody's supposed to be fine with that. Everybody's supposed to crowd around this idea that a black girl can play Ariel because she'll be an inspiration to black people. But the deal is that you cannot do that type of thing with a character and just slap that name onto her and expect her to be Ariel. You just can't do it. It's not okay. And the reason why it's not okay to do that with any with those kind of characters is because, there were so many people who loved the original Little Mermaid and who loved the original Ariel, that the thought of changing the idea of what she looked like just should not have happened. I'm sorry. You can call me racist, you can call me whatever you like, but no, it should not have happened in the first place. That is forced diversity. That is diversity being forced into something that it should not have been forced into. And that is what I'm talking about. Like, forced diversity, forced inclusion, is completely different from creativity and originality, because with creativity and originality, you could have given Halle Bailey her own name, her own character, and basically done whatever you wanted with her. And, you could have made her have, again, like red dreadlock hair, and you could have given her, you could have made her a mermaid, you could have made her this, and you could have made her that, and you could have given her her own story that she could have built off of, and created something entirely new. It did not have to be Ariel herself, because, Ariel is her own thing. And you could have made your own story with this character and had the absolute creative freedom to do so. That's the difference between forced diversity and doing a live-action remake of a original classical film and doing something entirely new, which could have been a lot better for everybody, because you could have had so much more creative freedom to do what you wanted to do in the first place, which was create a new original movie with your own original character and another lineup to the Disney Princess universe. You could have done that, but no. Disney had to do an idea of basically, giving, and I say giving, a character like Ariel to another person and basically slapping that on there and calling it diversity and inclusion, because they couldn't believe that a black mermaid princess could have survived on its own with its own storyline. That's what it boils down to. That's the problem that we face with forced diversity and inclusion. And that is a massive joke. It's like, basically, anybody can be Spider-Man, but not anybody can be Peter Parker. If you really want to do if you really want to do diversity and make it right, that's how you do it. You make your own story, you put your own spin to it, and you do not steal other people's work. Miles Morales, that is a fine example of a character that was created on his own merit and basically is Spider-Man, but he's not Peter Parker. And honestly, I relate to Miles Morales more than I could ever relate to Peter. I mean, Peter's a good character, and he works so hard, and he strives so hard, no matter what life throws at Peter, and no matter what the writers give him for, you know, like whether or not they throw a whole bunch of shit his way or whatever, you know, he still stands up for the greater good and does what needs to be done to save the world. And whereas, you know, I can't agree with that, because I probably wouldn't be that same way. You know, you've got Miles Morales over here who would do pretty much close to the exact same thing, but here's the deal about Miles. He's his own character. He has his own story. You know, he's half Latino and half, well, I think it's half Latino. Is it half, or is it Puerto Rican? I can never remember which one that is. And half black, half African American, like his father. You see, the thing is, that's what we need to be promoting right there, is because, you know, the thing about Miles is that he has such a good family stand-up. You know, he has his mom and his dad, which is not very common for the black community to have both parents. Most of the time, whenever you see a black family nowadays, or, you know what, it's a majority, is that it's just the dad, or it's just the mom, or mostly just the mom at all. I mean, the dad most of the time just isn't in the picture. And we need to start working on creating more characters that show a good father and you know, mother relationship, you know, thus actually putting those in film and showing those relationships more, and having the creativity to create these stories for it to go with. You know, we need to start creating more stories with more characters, and not just, you know, slapping, you know, like another franchise into the mix, and basically, you know, like trying to make spin-offs or sequels or prequels, you know, basically establishing how those new characters got into the same universe. It's lazy writing. We need more creative ideas, more ways of doing things, and just straight up, like, you know, just more creativity. I mean, how hard is that? You know, you've got so many stories out there to create things off of, you know, and we're not doing that. You know, and that's another reason why I am, you know, not for this SAG-AFTRA strike, is because, you know, why in the world would we want these writers back if all they're going to give us is more reboots, sequels, prequels, all of that fun stuff, and not something new that we can actually, you know, we can actually like. I mean, you know, diversity is great whenever it's not forced, you know. I mean, diversity is great whenever there's their own characters and more creative freedoms to write on. I mean, if I wanted to make a character, you know, lesbian, you know, I would want to make it to where, like, the character is good and all things great, and, you know, not having to copy off of somebody else's character. You know, I want her to have her own adventures, her own stories, and you know what? If she falls in love with, you know, like, somebody else, that's great. But being lesbian is not a character trait. And that is what we were appropriating in media. Or, you know, trying to appropriate in media. Yeah. Because we are appropriating sexuality as a character trait, or, you know, race as a character trait, instead of actually working on creating characters now, and creating stories that people can relate to, and creating characters and, you know, like villains and bad guys and all that fun stuff. We're not doing that anymore. We are not creating good villains. We're not creating good bad guys. We are not creating, you know, characters that people can relate to. We are, you know, like, in this process right now where we're at, I'm going to call it the diverse age. You know, we are basically in a place right now with, you know, stories and books and movies where all of them are just either remakes, sequels, or prequels, and we're not actually creating new characters for any sort of genre. Oh, and live action remakes. You know, we're not actually creating characters. We're not doing anything. We are just basically going in, casting people, you know, casting diverse casts with different color, or different cultures, or different, you know, sexualities, or different, you know, like, pronouns, or whatever. Casting them in these things, slapping it in there, and calling it a day. That is all that we're doing, and it's ridiculous. You know, we cannot have a female Indiana Jones. I'm sorry, but there should not be such thing as a female Indiana Jones. We cannot have a female James Bond. Not everything is going to be inclusive to any of you. We need to be in a place where we can talk about having our own lanes and having our own stories and having our own things to build off of. But we're not doing that anymore. We're literally at the point where, you know, if we do not have a black character in a film, then we are, you know, like, doing something wrong. You know, we are actually at a point where, you know, if a white main character is in the mix, you know, it's not okay for them to be the main character anymore. You know, you have to have a girl or, you know, like a black girl or a black, you know, like, guy to be in those roles that supposedly, you know, that way, you know, like, we can have that a little diversity or appropriation in there and inclusive and say, look how well we did, when that's not true. We don't need that anymore. You know, you got, you know, like, black people, the black media, if they want to have more films with more characters in them, then create those characters. Don't steal from other people. You know, and then that's where I also throw in my point with Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series. I am excited for that series. But whenever I read, and I was even willing to accept Leah playing the character of Annabeth. And again, I have no problems with the person of Leah. I'm sure that she's a real sweetheart. She seems great, and this is not a jab at you, Leah. But the problem is that whenever I read what you said about the character Annabeth, and I saw your interview, you know, and you said basically that you cannot wait to play this character, even though it doesn't look anything like you, and you do not feel like this character, I just have to say, why are you playing her then? I mean, I understand that, you know, you want it for the money. I mean, like, is that really it? I mean, like, is that, you know, like, why you feel like you are this character because you are an inspiration to young black girls everywhere? How is that inspiration, though? I mean, you are genuinely taking a character who was originally blonde, you know, with blue eyes, oh, no, sorry, gray eyes, and, you know, and is white, you know, and basically taking that away and saying, you know, like, oh yeah, well, this character looked and felt like this, but I'm going to change that to how I look. That's not changing, that's not the character, though. Now that's just you playing as you. And we need to stop confusing playing yourself in roles with the character that you're playing. Because you're not playing you in film. Nobody wants to see you as yourself in film. They want to see the character that they've grown up with. You know, people are passionate. You know, to put it as what Henry Cavill said, you know, fans are passionate about the things that they like. You know, I mean, fans are passionate, they like books, and you know, I even feel the same way about the other cast that they've gotten for this, because, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that, like, you know, Rick Riordan was wrong, because I believe that Rick Riordan, you know, has the right to do whatever he feels like he wants to with his books, and if he thinks that these guys are going to do great, then by all means, I believe that they will do just fine. But, you know, don't be mad at people who have read characters, you know, drawn this character, or, you know, had a vision in their brain of what this character looks like based on the descriptions that you gave, and now you're taking that away in favor of somebody else's looks. Don't be mad at those people, because that's not racism. Racism would be wanting them to be gone, or, you know, out of the picture, or completely, you know, like, just, you know, like, basically insulting them on how, in you know, like, how they look, or, you know, basically not allowing them to do certain things, or excluding them from being able to, you know, eat in a restaurant, or anything along those lines, or just blatantly being extremely cruel to them. But nobody wants you out of film or media. We're just saying maybe stick to characters that actually look and feel like stick with characters that actually look like you, or, you know, like, that you can actually play or even voice act, you know, that you can play. You know, like, don't steal other people's characters away from others just because, you know, you think that you, I don't even know how to say this nicely. Just, you know, don't try to say that those characters are you. like whenever you're playing them, and like, and then you say, oh, well, just because, I don't have this, and I don't have that, and I don't, I feel like I'm so glad to be playing this character, like, even though she doesn't look anything like me, she doesn't feel anything like me. That's not a cool thing to say, I guess. Like, it's not, it's like, saying, okay, well, this character doesn't look and I don't feel anything like this character, and, I'm so glad that, I'm going to be an inspiration to these young girls or whatever, and then you're like, oh, well, this character doesn't look or feel anything like me, and it's like, well, then what are you playing then? Like, who are you playing? Are you playing you? Or are you playing this character? Because, if you walked into that set and you were not feeling like the character that you were portraying on the casting, or like playing that character, then who are you playing exactly? I guess that's just my question. If you, I firmly believe that you have every right to be there, and I'm not discrediting what you can accomplish, if you're playing a character, but why should a character look exactly like you for you to relate? Or better yet, why do you feel like, that the character needs to be changed to look like you? I guess that's my thing. Why should a character have to change those looks from how they've always looked to look like you? And that's just with any character. Any character in general. You wouldn't hire a white person to play Lando Calrissian. You wouldn't hire somebody to play, you wouldn't hire a white girl or an Asian or, any other race to play somebody like Hazel Levesque. Why? Because she grew up in a segregated school where, black girls could not go, and be with, other girls. Or people of being white, black girls couldn't go during those time frames in the 1920s to be white. You cannot have an Asian or any other character or any other race play that other character. Just like I believe that we shouldn't be having, we shouldn't be saying that, why should a black actress play Ariel or a black actress play Astrid? You're taking those characters, that lived in this specific time frame away for another actor that doesn't even look or resemble that character. And that's not okay. And I recognize that, that I think I've gone a little bit too long into explanation about this, but isn't the point of creating new characters and new originality the way to handle this? Isn't there a way to create new things with your own cultures and your own designs and your own, spin on it, than, taking away other people's characters for the sake of making yourself look good? And it's not okay to do that. It's really not okay. Because characters are characters. And I believe that each character deserves, to be played by the race that they were described as in the book. At least the main characters. And that is the same way with Walker Scobell. I think that he's also a great actor, too. No disrespect toward him. But, and again, no disrespect towards Rick Riordan. If he believes that these guys are going to do well, I believe it, too. But I also believe that, you should keep characters how they were, and that's not racism. That's just saying, I really like this character, and I think that we should keep them how they were in the book. Because, again, people are passionate about things that they like, and passionate about the characters that they've always grown up with. Why should we change that? Why should we change how characters are just to fit somebody else's idea of what the character is supposed to be? And why should we also be forced to include those people? You shouldn't be forced to cast somebody that you don't want to. And you shouldn't be forced to feel like, just because they say like a character is traditionally white, that you have to hire a black person. And we shouldn't be forcing diversity and inclusion into every single situation, because that's just not the way that you're going to fix things. How you're going to fix things is creating new things to go with those things, so that other people can show that they feel seen and heard too, with creative diversity. But forced diversity and forced inclusion is not the way to do it. If you want an Asian character, create one. If you want a black character, create one. But do not steal another person's character, or do not steal another character's looks to fit what you look like, because that's not okay. And I guess that's that's just my opinion on the whole idea of what diversity and inclusion means, and just diversity versus creativity, and why I believe that creativity and art and thought and beauty is slowly being taken away, because we are teaching people that in order to be creative now, you have to be inclusive and diverse, and you have to do this, you have to do that, your main character has to be black, your main character, you shouldn't discriminate a person based on their race, or just shouldn't discriminate based on like their sexuality, or shouldn't discriminate based on their gender on how they're going to play this character. Or better yet, only certain people can play this specific character, like only a gay person can play a gay character. Again, that is not how that works. And I probably 100% didn't get this whole situation down like I wanted to, but it's just how I'm feeling right now, and I feel like I'm trying to reach out to people who maybe feel the same way as I do whenever it comes to conservative creativity and, like creativity in general. I want to be a creator, and I want to be able to write and do things, and I do write and do things on my own time. It's just, I want to know if there's other people like me who think this way, and if you do, great. If you don't, fantastic. I guess let me know in the comments, or if you want to subscribe, great. If not, cool. Again, I'm not really here for anybody else's approval.